Hello, my name is Brooke and I'm a health coach, and I'm so happy to have you here with me today. I am absolutely passionate about true health and wellness, and I wanted to pull together this workshop with four friends of mine who are experts in their fields, and I wanted to give you a few different perspectives on health. I wanted to give it away for free because I want to spread the word as much as possible that for the most part, your health is in your hands. I also wanted you to come away with some ideas of what you can do to feel better and be healthier. So often people tell me they just don't feel right. Something is off. It might be that they lack energy, they have brain fog. A lot of women have bad or painful periods. People have trouble sleeping, digestion's not right, skin issues, increasing anxiety and depression, or just a general sense that you don't feel as good as you used to. This is all too common. I see it every day with my clients. I'm here to tell you it doesn't have to be this way. Oftentimes, Western medicine can't fix these ailments, and you just don't know where to turn. If this sounds like you, I'm hoping that you'll get a spark of something that will lead you to take action and take control of your health and start turning things around. If after watching you think you'd like a little more help with this, I absolutely love working with people, and there's a few ways that I do this. The quickest and easiest way is to do my 7-day food audit. You keep a food diary for a week. Then we schedule a 15-minute phone call where we go over it and I let you know where you can make some changes. It's only $7, so it's an absolute bargain. I also have an online course called 6-Week Health Transformation. This is where I go through all the aspects of health, and we make small changes every week. I tell you how and I tell you why, and I give you all the tips and tricks to make it as smooth as possible. Each week you get about 8 videos, and most of them are 5 minutes or less. And you get weekly tasks to focus on and handouts to go along with it all. It also comes with a recipe book. I also do one-on-one coaching, and I can do this for general health issues, but I'm also a Gut Thrive practitioner, the most comprehensive gut healing protocol that can heal and seal the gut, helping you get rid of IBS symptoms, parasites, bloating, constipation, diarrhea, and pretty much any other gut issues. It's life-changing work. I've put myself through the program, and I feel the best I've ever felt in my whole life. I can't recommend it highly enough to anybody with gut issues. Okay, well, hopefully today you get some good information and you get a sense of ownership of your own health and wellness, and you take some action steps that you can put in place today. Let's get started. My first friend, Tim Jack Adams, is a global thought leader in well-being and has delivered talks around the world. His company, Green X7, is leading the way in how we measure and improve well-being. Tim helps teams to get into peak performance and thrive sustainably. But all that aside, Tim is an all-around legend of a guy, spreading positivity and happiness everywhere he goes. You'll often find him with his family in, on, or around the ocean because he's a real waterman. All right, let's get started. Okay. Hey, Tim, how are you?
Good morning. How are you, Brooke?
I'm fantastic. All the better for talking to you.
Hoo-ha. Thank you.
So thanks so much for coming on to talk with us today about health and wellness and what it means to you. And you and I have talked a lot about this in the past. We've even recorded a podcast together about it. And I just love your take on health and wellness because everyone has a little bit of a different slant or what appeals more to them. And so if you were talking to people in a very general sort of way of things they can do to improve their health and their wellness, where would you even start? Because it's such a big field.
Yes, it is a stratosphere. And I think straight off the bat, obviously, because we do so many workshops and keynotes, I get the opportunity to see so many different people in so many different industries. And I have to admit, most of those people don't even know they're going into a wellness workshop because it's corporate or things like that. So, the faces before you even start are like, maybe I can get away and walk out the door before he starts. And I think the first thing is most people probably don't actually know really what wellness and well-being is, right? Like we talk about it all the time, but sometimes it's very convoluted in terms of, like, for me, example, 10 years ago, before I sort of got into this space, I just thought it was fluffy spa stuff where girls did their nails and got massages. That's literally what I thought well-being was. How wrong I am. Yeah. And so what I do is just start with, well, what is well-being? And well-being is really just being in a comfortable state, mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So wonderful. Yep. But really, the most important thing is the wellness part, because wellness just means a deliberate effort to get there. And that's the important part, right? Because information's great, but unless we implement it, it's absolutely useless.
Right.
So let's actually do wellness to get to well-being. So I think once we sort of state that really it's just a deliberate effort to look after yourself, it then sort of becomes really easy because people go, oh, cool. So if I go for a walk, that's wellness. Yeah. If I eat well, that's wellness. If I go for a surf or do yoga or just hang out with my family without devices, that's wellness. And yeah, funny enough, it is. Anything that helps recharge you and makes you feel better is wellness.
That's awesome. Because you don't always think about those little things um, as being wellness. Yeah.
No, like I just love me taking the dogs for a walk is wellness, right? Like it's actually so simple when you think about it.
Yeah.
Um, and that's what I really love about this industry because, obviously I started in the tourism industry, hiring out paddle boards and kayaking and taking people snorkeling with turtles.
Yeah.
And I had no idea that, it had to do with wellness or well-being. I just thought I was having fun with people.
Yeah.
But obviously we did all that science and research about actively engaging in nature. And then I'm like, oh my God, I'm actually in the wellness industry. This is really cool.
Yeah. Yeah. That's so funny. One of my favorite things to do in the summer is to go swimming with the kids in the creek
So
and
good.
time outside in nature and in the water, and we're having fun together in the sunshine. It really, yeah, I would
Yeah.
never, I think, oh, we're going to go for the morning down to the creek, but I would never have thought I'm doing
Mm,
something for our wellness. But there you go. So it's
totally.
actually simple.
Yeah, really simple. And how does it make you feel when you go take the kids to the creek? Like, what's the feeling you get from it?
Oh, I love it. I feel like being in the ocean. I love being in the ocean. Head under the water. It's just this like everything washes over you and off of you, all the
Mhm.
stress or the
So good.
frustration or the whatever. I just
Yeah.
feel recharged. You honestly feel like you needed that.
Yeah. It's so soul cleansing. I know.
I
Every day I try and do that. It's amazing.
Yeah, but it's so funny because that's not everybody's thing. And there's some people who would be really stressed out about that. And so I guess really it's finding what works for you, right? Because, you know,
Yeah.
I also
That's
love my yoga classes, but some people hate yoga. But so it's finding those things that fall into the wellness category that really fill you up.
And I think that's a big one because obviously, we're coasty kids. We're obviously almost neighbors. And look, every single morning, we'll take, little Sunny Jack down, our son, and Carly will go for her 5K run. And I will never do that. You will never find me running, Brooke. That's for sure.
Yep.
So, Sunny and I will go for a walk and we'll just hang out and do our thing. But some people want to go to the gym and other people live in very cold, climates with snow or whatever it is. So even in the city. So I guess what you've got to do is you've got to look at exactly, where you live, your lifestyle, the hours you work, and go, okay, well, what is it that I can possibly do today? Something small, something easy, something fun,
Mhm.
that's going to recharge my batteries, improve my wellness. And I think one of the most simplest things that we can try and do is obviously, we're all really busy.
Mhm.
But at lunch break, you do get some time, whether it's 30 minutes or up to an hour for some corporates, but it's actually just, leaving your desk. Don't multitask. The one of the best advice that I got with through nutrition, Brooke, was when we multitask at our desk, our body goes into that fight or flight mode. And
Mhm.
so what happens is that your body starts storing fat because it's stressed.
Right.
So one of the best things we can do is actually leave the desk, go take a picnic lunch somewhere. If you've got a nice little green space near you, could be a park, could be by a river.
Yeah.
Actually eat your lunch there, leave the phone behind and just disconnect to reconnect, right? Just breathe, enjoy the sunshine if it's there, and then just go for a nice little 15-minute walk, get the digestive system going. And by the time you get back to your desk, your brain's firing again, you're feeling good, and you can smash out that productivity in the afternoon.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree more. There's a rule like there's no screens anytime we're eating. I would never multitask in front of the computer eating my lunch. We would never have the TV on during dinner. There's just no phones at the table. And I really love that you're also then putting a lot of, when you're like eating something, if you're unaware of it, it just,
Hmm.
having that real, enjoyment with your food and not being distracted with, scrolling through Instagram or
Yeah.
whatever it is. You really want to be present.
So present. Well, the thing is, it takes so long to prepare, right? Like takes so long to prepare, so long to clean up. At least you could spend that 15 to 20 minutes, like just utterly enjoying it. And it's really funny because like everyone knows when I'm really enjoying my food because it's embarrassing, but I close my eyes and I just like savor every bit. And then like my besties are just like, Timmy, we're not going out to a restaurant because you're just embarrassing me with your closing of your eyes. But the thing is, like, you have to enjoy it. It's about being 100% present. And that's obviously when we're having a conversation, or if someone's having a conversation with their partner, you know, their colleagues, their boss, their friends, it's actually about being 100% present. And I guess one of the greatest things that we've learned from all this research, and look, we started in 2013 now with Green X7,
Wow.
is that what sits behind well-being and wellness is actually the most important thing that we can do for longevity and well-being is actually those warmth of relationships, right? Positive human connection.
Yeah.
And they're the ones we forget, you know, and when you're talking about being 100% present at the dinner table without your phones, it's that ability to be able to reconnect with those around you, the warmth of relationships that create that value, meaning, and belonging.
Yeah.
And it's actually that which really matters, because value, meaning, belonging gives us self-worth, and self-worth creates self-love. Yeah. And that's really what we need at the foundation, right? If we don't have that, you know, we can have all the tips and tricks and tools, but if we don't actually love ourselves and want to care for ourselves, well, none of it's going to matter anyway.
Yeah. Yeah. Awesome. I love that so much. Yeah, human connection, I think, is often missed in the health space.
Yeah, totally. That's what you do really well. I love when we get to catch up because you're like the queen of human connection.
Oh, and you. Yeah, well, I'd love to show people what you've created with your app, because I think it's fantastic. So I'm just going to pull this up real quick, even though I do have a rule of I try really hard not to be on screens, you know, when I'm with people. We are talking through screens.
We are talking on a screen. You got to meet them where they're at to get them off.
Yeah. So the app is Green X7, like the letter X and the number 7. So if why don't you walk people through the app and then I'll show them what.
All right, cool. So funny enough, when we first started this company, it was all about getting people to reconnect to self, others, and nature for everyday wellness. And it was all about getting people off screens, outdoors, really present. And anyway, in 2015, we sort of, you know, for me, a big impact was when I lost a really good friend of mine to suicide. And I grew up with 6 brothers. We really had no emotional IQ. We didn't understand how to share our emotions. We really didn't understand how to say I love you or even talk about it. So one of the biggest things, especially for guys, is really just being able to discuss how you're going, right? Because obviously when we say, are you okay? Everyone goes, yeah, I'm fine, even if they're not. Yeah. So what we did was, first of all, we created a card game, which was basically there's 8 wellness areas that make up the battery or your health and well-being. And that's sleep. You've also got your physical health, your nutrition, your mindset and attitude, which really is everything. We talked about fun because unfortunately fun these days has been completely forgotten about, but it's so important for our mental health and attitude. Yeah. And then we really look at our relationships, our friendships, and then purpose, which really frames everything that we do, right? We really need a reason to be able to look after ourselves or to help others. Yeah. So what we did is we realized that we could actually combine those together and call it a battery, right? Because we all understand battery. We reconnect and recharge our phones every single night, so they're fully productive the next day, but we just forget to do it ourselves. So what we did is we worked out that if we created an app from these cards, that you could literally ask yourself these 8 questions from low to high, and within 60 seconds, it would actually measure your well-being and give you a benchmark. It was great because then we actually were able to work out how people were really going and not just a guessing game. So you shared before that you're 85%, which is amazing. It's 10% in Australia at the moment. When we looked at our dashboard, most people are sitting around 57% when they get onto the app. So that was how we sort of started to work out how to measure people's well-being.
Awesome. I'm just trying to pull up what I had done before. I can't. But that's basically my score there.
Yes. Well done.
We went through, and maybe I'll just do that again, where you score yourself.
Yes.
So the first one, it's going to ask me to score myself on physical health.
You got it.
Yeah, so you can go from 1, which is low, to 10, which is high. Right now, I give myself an 8.5 to a 9. You could drag it along, and then you hit next, and then you go your next one, which is sleep. Now that one wasn't one of the ones I scored myself the highest on.
But yeah, and I guess the cool thing about the app and the reason why we created that is so we could actually share that with other people, right? Because what we need is someone to support us, and for us to support them, because that's how we create that value, meaning, belonging. So if you sort of pinged me now with that one and I got your battery, I go, well, first of all, you're kicking ass, so well done. But it would actually bring up, a wellness report. It would tell you what you should be doing based on an algorithm.
That's what I want to show people. So I'm gonna
do it.
I'm gonna go through this. Well, I say my sleep is not too bad. I just have 2 dogs that we let on the bed, which is foolish because I know that goes against, but they're just so cute.
Dear, I've got 2 Labradors, but I'm definitely not letting those guys on my bed. Not with Coogin red soil.
Well, yeah. Well, yes, I hear you. Yeah. Okay. So here it goes. So now I've gone through and it's calculating my battery now.
Awesome. Here we
I had to
go.
check out the score for food and sleep and movement.
Boom. 83%.
82%.
Good job.
Okay. So then you can click on view report.
Yep. So if I was coaching you, I would be like, okay, she's a very well balanced human being, but what we're going to do is we're going to look at fun and friendships. So what I would actually ask you is, what do you love to do that's fun that you could invite your friends along with, Brooke? What would you say?
Do you know what the funny thing is that those 2 being the lowest is, so I'm such a social, outgoing, I always want to be with my friends, but I've been so busy lately that I just haven't made the time. And so and then that's tied into fun. There's a million things I can do fun with my friends. And I don't know. Sometimes I think, you go in seasons, and sometimes we're filming this in June and it's cold and it's winter. And I kind of go into a little hibernation mode in the beginning of winter. Does that happen to you ever?
Oh, yes. Yes, it does.
I've also been working so hard on everything with my business that I've kind of a little bit had blinders on to. I'm kind of been in work mode lately.
Yeah.
But
all right. Well,
yeah.
let's get you. I'm going to ask you 3 questions, right? So first question you answered, which was why, was fun and friendships low, which you answered.
Yeah.
The second question, which is, what is it that you could do that would include fun and friendships? So give me an example of what you would typically do.
I think I love entertaining. I'd have people over to our house and I'd cook for everyone, and we'd sit around the table and chat and laugh, and yeah.
Beautiful. All right. And now, when are you going to do it, Brooke?
Probably this weekend. Maybe I should do it this weekend.
Done. All right. I'm going to shake on that. And that's as simple as it works, because it's a self-awareness app, right? Like, that's the beauty of it, is that it actually gets you to stop and see what you need to do to help recharge your batteries. And then obviously on that screen that you're on, if you scroll down, it would actually give you suggestions. There we go. Scroll down. Beautiful. Awesome. Yeah. So there's a really cool algorithm behind it that actually, so you've got board games as your second suggestion. So obviously,
I love board games.
There we go.
Yeah.
So because you're low in fun and friendships, it's actually telling you should go do a board game, catch up with a friend. So it's a really amazing algorithm that can actually, I don't know how all these geniuses do it. I give them the content and they just create this really cool stuff. But it's amazing that they can do that. So there we go. Dinner with friends and fun, and that battery score will even push higher.
Do you know what's so funny? I would have never thought of looking after myself in the health and wellness space as catching up with friends.
Yeah, it's the best thing you can do.
So much easier than what, I think sometimes we get bogged down with the which multivitamin do I take, or how many hours there's so many metrics you can use in health and wellness, but I love how you just simplify it. It's that easy.
Yeah. And I think too, like, when we look at friendships and relationships, like, we now know that loneliness is basically the fastest growing epidemic. We know that loneliness is equivalent to, smoking 15 cigarettes a day. And people are spending so much time on looking at, how they look, the multivitamins and eating the perfect diet and doing the perfect mindfulness session. And, everything's got to be just perfect. But, if they look back, they go, well, actually, I'm actually creating those warmth of relationships that I need, because the stats say that we now spend 46 hours of our downtime on screens each week outside of work. And we actually only spend 2 to 3 hours creating positive human connection, like you're going to do this weekend. So,
Wait,
if you
back up.
can,
46 hours of
46
screen time.
hours. Yeah. So basically, we're now spectators of our lives. We no longer, participate. We spend an average of 20 minutes a day outside, so less than maximum security prisoners. And this is where sometimes, like, getting out in nature and actually just reflecting is really good, because then you cut all the bullshit out. You cut out all the advertising and what you think you need or what people say you should need, and actually go back to the heart space. So when we do our workshops or keynotes, it's all about getting out of here and actually reconnecting back to our heart space, because obviously that's the things that matters, right? They're the memories. They're the things that really make us feel human. It's not all the doing and, oh my God, I've got to do this for work or this for, at home. It's actually about going, right, what is it that makes my heart sing? And who can I bring along with me to really create joy in my life?
Yeah. Yeah. Oh my gosh. That's just rattled me. Wow. I mean, yes. Yeah. I think there's a big link between screen time and mental health, and then how we feel about ourselves. We look at other people doing things online, and then we compare ourselves, and then it's this downward spiral, and it's not doing us really any good, is it? We feel like, oh, we're on social media to connect with friends, but really we're not.
No, I do find it amazing. We're working on this thing at the moment called the circle of influence, and how, sort of almost pre-industrial revolution, it was all about the first connection you had was with your family, and then it was your community, like your close community, and then it was your acquaintances, and eventually it was the rest of the world. Whereas now we've flipped it. We're spending so much time trying to impress the rest of the world on social media that we're actually forgetting about everyone else on our inner circle, which is just absolutely killing us in terms of being depressed and lonely.
Yeah. Oh, wow. You've just given us all so much to think about. I love it. I love hearing you talk. You always.
Thanks, Brooke.
So smart. And I don't know what's happened there. Where'd we go? Can you see me?
I gotcha.
Tech is not my strong suit. There's not a score on that for tech.
I know. Well, at least we pressed recording, so that was a good thing.
Anyways, Tim, I just want to thank you so much for your time today and helping us. So anyone, if they want to find, the app is BrainX7, and it's free.
It's free. Yeah, it's free, because we want everyone to be able to connect, care, and share and support each other.
Yeah, awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate
Pleasure.
everything.
Have fun this weekend with your friends.
I will. I'm going to send you a photo.
Yes, do it. Do it.
All right. Thanks, Tim. Have a great day.
See you, Brooke. Thank you.
Bye.
Ciao.
Next, I'm speaking with my friend, Dr. Shamanti. She's been a medical doctor for over 20 years. She first trained as a cardiac surgeon in England. Then she moved to Australia in 2007, where she trained in ICU and is now an intensive care specialist. Shamanti's always had an interest in true health, but it was when she had her own health issues that modern medicine couldn't fix, she turned to food to solve her problem. Food is medicine. Let's take a listen. All right, so now we're talking to my friend, Dr. Shamanti, who ICU doctor. You've been a doctor for 20 plus years. Now, you and I really bonded over our shared interest in like true health. And I think, we sort of knew each other. And then when we had the conversation that we found out we were both sort of on the same page is when we really just clicked, didn't we? And then we loved hanging out and chatting and sharing information with each other. So why don't you tell everyone the story of sort of how you got to where you are now? Because you haven't always been, you're a Western medicine doctor, how you're now really into alternative. I hate the word alternative, because really it's all just about staying healthy, right? Staying out of the healthcare system is now alternative. I hate that. But anyways, share with everyone your journey of how you got to where you are now.
So, for me, it took getting really sick with chronic migraine, which I had for over 2 years. And with chronic migraine, there's limited opportunities or modes that conventional medicine can cure. It was very debilitating and really a desperate situation. And I've always been healthy and health conscious and eating well, and I suppose following more of a plant-based paleo style of eating, low fat, all of that we learn about that's good for us.
Yeah.
But the chronic migraine wouldn't go, and I saw a neurologist, and she offered a list of medicines we could trial and go through. And just on the very first one, I was already really intolerant of the side effects. And the others were certainly upping the ante and moving on to heavy anti-seizure, anticonvulsants. And so really it was desperation that drove me to research myself. And it was through watching an online World Headache Congress, that I heard a neurologist talk about a therapeutic ketogenic diet that she applied to her chronic migraine patients. Now, I hadn't ever heard of this, but I thought, this is it. This is what I'm going to do. And that's what started this alternate path, using nutrition and food to change my health, or, to make me better, to cure illness.
Yeah.
So just cutting a long story short, I started the keto diet, very strict, very scientific, really pedantically, measuring all the nutrients, the macronutrients in my food, and monitoring my ketones. And look, within a week of converting to ketosis, the migraine was gone. So it took about 2 weeks from starting, from changing how I ate. It was very radical, very drastic, and it was a very difficult first week. But I didn't really know what I was doing. And in hindsight now, I could have done it much better. But so within 2 weeks, the migraine was broken, and it subsided from continual to probably 2 or 3 in a month, which was amazing. So I had a new lease of life. And a lot of other things improved too.
Okay.
So that was the start of it.
Awesome. So food is medicine.
Food is medicine.
So the best pharmaceuticals in the world couldn't do anything for you. And all you had to do was change what you ate.
Yes.
Yeah. This is where I want to see the healthcare system go. As you know, my dad was also a doctor. He was emergency room, and he was as Western medicine as you could get. And if you had high blood pressure, he would say, take this pill. He would have never recommended, and because he was an emergency room doctor, he probably didn't have that same relationship with patients the way a GP would, but he would have never said, change your diet or lifestyle or anything. He was straight up and down. There's a pill for every ill, and doesn't matter what you eat. And I love that the conversation around this is different than what it would have been 10 or 20 years ago. People really are seeing that health is in their own hands a bit. A lot, actually.
Yes, a lot. That's right.
Yeah.
I do think that one of the key points here is to have sufficient motivation, because making these changes, it is hard. It is really hard breaking away from what we accept as as normal or standard or how things should be. So for example, the ketogenic diet was high fat, and that went against everything that I'd ever learned, been taught, or understood to be good.
Mhm.
And so there's a lot of turning what we know on its head and keeping an open mind. And I think in order to have that open mind and be able to take those steps, we often need sufficient motivation, which unfortunately means becoming quite sick and then really desperate before we are able to do that.
Yeah. So I totally know exactly what you're talking about, the motivation. I had a similar experience with my own IBS. It got so bad for me that I was willing to try anything. So I know where you are. And it's a shame that sometimes we have to be pushed to that, to then find our own paths. And we both sort of trial and error on ourselves, what works and doesn't work. What are your thoughts around sort of the whole genetics, epigenetics? Speak about that, because I love what you have to say about that.
Well, I guess first to define, genetics will be our what's in our DNA, and epigenetics is not altering our DNA, but is modulating which parts are turned on or off and when. So, there's so much interest in epigenetics now. It's a massive field, but I think the evidence is really incontrovertible that we can change our genetic destiny through epigenetic modulation. And that means changing how we eat, how we live, so diet and lifestyle. There's evidence of meditation practices achieving similar things. It's really interesting. So basically, the genes that we're born with, we don't have a predestined future if these are bad and unfavorable genes necessarily. So it gives us hope.
Doesn't it? Does,
Yeah.
because I remember thinking, oh gosh, if your mom gets breast cancer, then you're going to get breast cancer, and it's not that way at all.
That's right.
And it's we know so much more about what feeds, like cancers feed off things like sugar, right? So that's giving cancer the perfect food for it to grow and flourish in your body.
Yes.
Yeah, it's actually really comforting to know how much we are in control.
Yeah.
But at the same time, it's really tricky, right? Because so much of the food that's cheap and that's delicious and that's easy, we're both working parents and we know what it's like to come home and have to get food on the, you've been out all day. And so there's this really cheap, really tasty, really quick, horrendously unnutritious food that people get addicted to.
Yeah.
And we're battling the big food industries, and they know exactly what our pain points are. And yeah, what do you reckon about all that?
I think to achieve change, it probably has to happen incrementally, just a small step at a time.
Yeah.
And it has to start with education. I mean, even for myself, for years, I mostly steered clear of, say, TV dinners and fast food. But as time went on, it became clear that that wasn't enough.
Mm-hmm.
And what I thought was healthy eating was, in fact, for example, very, very high in sugar. And as time has gone and I've learned more, I know there's a lot more learning that I have to do, but it's slow and it's incremental, but it's always a step forward. So perhaps the first bit of awareness is to realize that the TV dinners and fast food are the first things, maybe just as an example, to steer clear of and look at alternatives.
Mm-hmm.
then we come to the next step and the next step over time.
Yeah.
And then, of course, that'll be determined how quickly someone can progress. Will also depend on their health and how sick they are.
Yeah.
Because the sicker we are, the more driven we are to get better in many cases.
Yeah.
Yes.
Absolutely.
But if we're not sick, then cutting out fast food seems like, why do we need to do that? I'm okay.
Yeah. And then you're okay until you're not okay.
That's right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I know that it was really important for me to lay down really good eating healthy habits with my kids. And I'd love to see more education in schools around this kind of thing, because it's crazy that we're having to seek out our own paths in this. But yeah, I love what you said about slow steps, because with my online course, that's exactly what we do with people. I think sometimes this all or nothing approach can be very hard for people. And so I think I say over and over again, slow steps for lasting results. And
Yes.
that's what I've found with most people that I work with, is that they just need that little bit at a time, because making
Yes.
too many changes at once is very hard and
Yeah.
overwhelming. And most people can't stick to it unless you had, you were so desperate.
That's right. Yes. Yeah.
What kind of things do you see in the ICU that you think are preventable? Obviously, you've got people who have accidents or post-surgery, but what kind of things do you see that you're dealing with?
Probably the number one pathology is diabetes.
Okay.
So the majority of our patients in the ICU are diabetic.
Okay.
And, as we're learning now, it is
type 2?
Type 2.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and now, of course, we're learning that it's a carbohydrate intolerance, and it can be treated. It can be managed very well by controlling diet.
Yeah.
And making the appropriate dietary changes.
Yeah.
That's the overwhelmingly common comorbidity that we have now.
Yeah. Yeah. Diabetes is one of those things that is, I don't know if you can say 100%. I mean, there may be, I don't know, is there some genetic predisposition to that, or is it's really, for the overwhelming majority, it's in our hands?
Well, there may be a genetic predisposition to carbohydrate intolerance in
Okay.
type 2 diabetics.
Yeah.
I don't know if that's been researched.
Okay. But yeah, there's so much we can do to either reverse it or prevent it in the first place.
Yes. And of course, anecdotally, and you may know people too, I know people who aren't in the ICU, but who were diagnosed pre-diabetic or diabetic, and they aggressively completely changed their eating habits, their diet, and it's just, it's at bay. So they continue to live unmedicated by taking these steps.
Yeah. Nice to see that, isn't it?
Mm.
All right, well, we'll wrap things up here in a minute, but is there any tips, any other tips besides sort of a slow start or changing diet, anything else that you can give people if they're watching this and they know they need to make some changes, things just aren't quite right in their body or their health? I know you've already given a few, but is there anything else you want
to? I think the trap we fall into is when something isn't working, we're slow to change what we're doing. And, if a conventional path or a mainstream path isn't working, then to have an open mind and change what you're doing, because what you're doing isn't working.
Right.
So instead of more of the same, it's time to try something different. But that really takes an open mind.
Okay.
And that's what I've learned. We're mired in dogma and conventions, and having a closed mind is really it's our own we stay in our own prison.
Yeah. 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 I love that. Well, thank you so much for your time and talking with us today. I really appreciate it. All right.
Anytime, Brooke.
Okay. Have a great day.
Okay, see you. Bye.
All right. Next up, I'm talking to my friend, Dr. Peter. He's been a doctor for over 30 years, mostly a GP. He's worked in 5 different countries, and he's an absolute wealth of knowledge. Part of the reason I value his perspective so much is he truly understands wellness. He doesn't just want to treat sickness. So much so that he's currently studying to work more in the integrative space, or that root cause approach to health. He mentions this in our chat, so I'll let him tell you all about it. Hi, Peter. How are you?
Hi. Very nice to see you, Brooke.
I know. It's nice to see you too. Thank you so much for joining us today. I really value everything that you stand for. You've been a doctor for 30 years, but you have a different perspective than I think a lot of doctors. So I just would love you to kind of tell us where you're at in your journey in medicine and health.
Okay. Well, thanks so much for having me. Like you said, I had practiced conventional medicine for 30 plus years. I originally trained in Europe, in Austria, and then ended up working in various countries across the world, South Africa, New Zealand, and Switzerland for a while, and then in Canada. And ultimately, after working in hospital medicine, emergency medicine, with inpatients, also started some clinics with people with mental health issues, the homeless. And I felt that I wanted to have people, rather than just picking up a prescription for me, that's what the expectation seemed to be, is be able to get more to the root cause of issues, because I recognize that ultimately just putting a patch on a problem with a prescription is maybe that quick fix, but it doesn't care of the root cause.
Mm-hmm.
The problem is that prevention is often, and that's what we're talking about, is often hard work. And for policies, governments, and healthcare system, it's a long-term effect that you're looking for. So it's not that quick fix, and therefore it doesn't normally get the financing.
Okay.
So then I had the opportunity to actually be hired in Switzerland and get into prevention. And because of COVID, I couldn't travel back and forth anymore, and ended up now in Australia. And during that time, I did a lot of research and found out stuff and information that I was never taught in medical school. And that was the impact of lifestyle changes and behavior being at the root of that long-term improvement and the better health. And I've since also started doing some courses with the Australasian College of Nutritional and Environmental Medicine. And I try and practice what I preach. I eat healthy, I exercise, and basically I value my body because it's the vehicle that helps me do what I enjoy doing. But health is your primary wealth. That's something that Ralph, a saying from Ralph Waldo Emerson, which I really value. And it's so true, because if you don't have it, you're chasing doctor's appointments, you're running to or spending time in hospitals, and then it becomes something that we don't actually want to deal with. So I find it's worthwhile putting in the effort.
Absolutely. Yeah. What do they say? An inch of prevention is worth more than a pound of cure, or?
Well, yeah. That one. Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And I think, it's, it is that. And, another saying, I have a ton of things and quotes. Another one is that the apple a day keeps the doctor away. Maybe not just the apple a day. That may have been, in the old days. There's more than we can do than just that. But there is, I don't know, inspiration and that I get even from the inventor Thomas Alva Edison, who lived in late 1800s, early 1900s, said that the doctor of the future will not give medication, but will interest his patients in the care of the human frame, diet, and finding the cause and prevention of disease. And I thought that was, oh gosh, this is not a new concept, a new idea.
Yeah.
And I find that so true. And, I see it in myself. I feel so much better since I've, again, incorporated some of those changes into my own life.
Yeah, awesome. So you've sort of seen some of the shortfalls of Western medicine and thought you'd really want to put your efforts more into,
Just
true wellness.
Yeah. And I think an example is, I ended up in practice having patients come and see me. And when I started, being more restrictive with handing out a prescription, so often the expectation would be you go and see your doctor and you get a prescription as a quick fix. And then patients would say, what do you mean you're not going to give me a prescription? I said, no, I don't think you need an antibiotic, or you should try this before you try medication. And I think it's because we're so used to, for one, you go to the doctor, you get a script. And by then not getting it, they'd be disappointed. So I'd be handing out prescription, but they'd say like, healthy eating with whatever they were doing, or a prescription for exercise so many times a week with, doing this and doing that. And so they still got their prescription. They didn't necessarily quite hear what they came for, but I would hope that I, turned on some light bulbs and got the odd person maybe thinking and questioning their present lifestyle and make some choices that ultimately lead them in a direction of health.
Yeah.
And I think seeing, the same problems over and over from these, they're called, like, now we have the research to back it up, non-communicable diseases, NCDs. So it's become a term now. And they are all like based on those changes that you are also propagating for. So it's slowly making inroads. But, it takes on average about 15 years or so for new revelations, new research to make it into the textbooks and become mainstream. So I think we're on this new trend, and this will be the future, but it's slow going and it'll take a while. But then again, it's, that's the nature of the course, right?
Yeah. There's a lot of people who come to me and Western medicine didn't have the answer for them, especially things like IBS. There's no real pill for that, is there? Chronic fatigue, brain fog. Probably the thing that I see the most with my clients is women with bad periods. And so often doctors will put women on the pill or put them on an IUD to stop heavy bleeding or the cramping. And that really, it's covering up the problem. And it's really your body's way of saying something's not right. Mm-hmm. And then not fixing it. I mean, did you see a lot, like so much of, we know periods are diet and lifestyle related.
Yeah.
And people, when I say that, people go, wait, what? No, my mom had bad periods, so I have bad periods. I think it's just their lot in life to have bad periods. And really, it's not at all, is it?
You know what? You're speaking to, like, from my heart. These are my thoughts, and it's the kind of the stuff that I had to learn as well, because we were not taught it, certainly not in medical school. Medical school still teaches nothing about nutrition. And even when we look at the food pyramid from, compare the food pyramid from 5-10 years ago to what we know now with the newer stuff, it was totally upside down. And now we have new research to back up exactly what you're saying. And it was exactly what you just said, where I now sometimes think, oh my gosh, I wish I had known then what I know now, because with exactly these cases or issues that you just mentioned, I would sit there and don't really know what I could be doing here, because I kind of knew I don't really want to prescribe a drug, even though there were some on offer. But, we didn't quite have the research either, but now we do. And now we know what we can do. And it boils down to making exactly those changes that you're advocating for.
The tide is turning. So what would you, it's really hard because one thing that I have a problem with Western medicine is I think it's kind of a one size fits all, and really everyone's an individual. So what might work for some might not work for others. But if we were going to speak in really sort of broad and general terms here, someone watching this that they're not sleeping well, they're gaining weight, they're maybe a bit depressed or anxious, they've had all these, give us a few things that we could say would be true for most people, recommendations, or where would you start with someone?
I think it's a, lifestyle change, and that usually encompasses a few factors.
Okay.
When I look at people's shopping carts, I have a good, you can look and see, okay, that's probably why you look the way you look. Okay. Or I can then go on and say, oh, I wouldn't be surprised if you had headaches, brain fog, period problems, sleep issues. And then the other thing is, besides the diet, you also see when you order, when people are in restaurants and you see the plates, you think, oh my gosh, what are you eating? Like, how can you? Like, I now knowing what I know, think, no. And once you actually get into the changes, it becomes, first of all, easier, and you don't want to go back anymore. 100%. It's almost like it's a total shift. First, you need to make that shift in your mindset, but then it becomes easy, automatic, and then you suddenly, it's like, smoking is another one, obviously. I mean, that's a no-brainer, but people who smoke feel that they have to, and they're in it, and they say, no, leave me alone. But once they stop smoking, it's like they say, oh my gosh, I can't believe I ever did. And so it is with certain foods, like, I don't know, be it sugars or gluten or dairy for a lot of people, or whatever it is, because you end up feeling so much better. Another big one is obviously exercise, just because of the combination of the fresh air, then the degradation and the letting off steam, getting rid of your stress hormones, works wonders for your stress levels. You're out, you're doing something different, even if you're in a gym, your mind goes somewhere else, so it's awesome for that. And sleep hygiene, there's a lot of stuff that can be done as well, so it's a big package.
Yeah,
but every little bit and piece helps. And I've seen this over and over and over in patients, clients, people who've adapted even some of those changes. They get it and they feel the difference, and they find out that it's really worth it, and they don't want to go back.
Everything you've just said, those are sort of the main 4 things I touch on in my 6-week health transformation course.
Oh, cool.
Movement, sleep, stress seem to be the best places to hit to really make some changes. And then, a lot of people don't want to go back to how they were feeling.
Let me just, while you're saying, you said something earlier, where someone says, oh, my mom had that. And we used to think it's all genetic and it's in the genes and can't do anything about it either. We now know that is not the case. We have something called epigenetics.
Yeah.
That's also like knowledge that's about 15 years old, where we know that you may have the genetic potential for a certain something, but it's the environment that causes then those influences that gets you to have problems, issues, or a disease. So we know it's that nature versus nurture. We now have learned that there is a lot more emphasis and attention that we should like put on the environment, which is exactly those lifestyle factors to be healthy and prevent illness, disease, or whatever.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, I find this so exciting to think that this is where we're moving to in terms of, you know, healthcare has not been healthcare, it's been sick care, you know, eat and drink whatever you want, get sick, and then have a doctor fix it with a pill or a surgery. But really the quality of life, people that aren't caring for their health really is generally quite poor. And like you said,
and they're missing out.
Yeah. And then you do, like, you know, a lot of people know they have to make changes, and that idea is really hard, right? Because we're kind of set in our ways. We eat certain ways, or we used to drinking alcohol, a couple of glasses of wine every night, and to make those changes is really hard for some people. But exactly what you said is that once you make the switch and you feel how good you feel eating a clean diet, you don't want to go back. You do not want to go back. And I just hope that anyone watching this who is suffering with any one of these sort of, not major ailments, but they just know things aren't right. They don't feel quite right. Lack of energy or any of it. I just so hope that they see this and they're motivated to take that first step to do something.
And you know what? It's when you say the first step, that is a trigger to me, because if we want to climb upstairs to start, you have to take a first step, and then it's another step. It may seem so overwhelming in the beginning because it's, oh, I got to do all these things. Eventually, over time, it's only ever one step at a time. You don't have to change everything at once. You're bound to fail anyway, because you don't want to just, I do this for 3 weeks and then I'm going back to where I was. No, you go and make a small step and stick with it. And then with these changes, you'll actually see that it becomes easier over time. And then you add in other things.
Yeah, that's exactly what we do in my course. And such great results from that. I know that sometimes, like you said, it can be overwhelming. You know, even if people today, if they just maybe stopped buying Coke or Diet Coke, that's one thing you could do, right? So easy.
Absolutely. It's back to the shopping cart.
Yeah.
If you don't have it in the house, you're not going to drink it. So the decision actually starts in the store at the shelf. Right. And then it's so much easier to not reach out and put it in the bag. You're halfway there, right? Because then you don't have it.
Yeah. I know you and I are also similar in that the way that we eat, we're looking for things that are going to fuel our body with the right nutrients and supplements and minerals. And for me, it's a no-brainer. All those things are like your soda pops and your chips and your cookies. There's zero nutritional value. And all they're doing is harming every
the ups and lows and and the inflammatory reactions. You get the joint pains and the fog. In the end it's a no-brainer.
It just destroys your gut microbiome, you know, lessens your immune system. And for me, any joy that I maybe would have had by eating a cookie, you know, when yes, it tastes amazing for a minute or two, but the havoc it's going to wreak for the next 24 hours it's inside you is really not worth it. And anyone who's watching this who has a real sweet tooth, I grew up on the worst American diet ever. I was an absolute sugar addict for the first 18 years of my life. And now, because it's very rare when I have sugar. To me, those healthy treats that I make with the kids, the things I use honey or dates to sweeten, it really hits the spot. And I don't feel like I need the cake and the cookies and the soda.
See, I used to love sugar as well, and used to have 3 sugars in my coffee, for example. It's like I can't even do it if somebody gives me a coffee with a sugar or a tea with sugar. That I can't really. I don't like it anymore because you adjust, your taste buds adjust. Same with salt. You get used to, just put a bit of salt in the end on your own. There's salt in everything anyway. And I often end up finding, oh gosh, in restaurants especially, this is so salty. And it's, just as an example, or certain sweets, it's like, oh my gosh, it's like too sweet. I don't like it anymore. Right?
Your tastes totally adjust.
Changes, yeah.
And you don't need it anymore. Or sometimes I've said before that, like, sometimes I might have one bite of something and I'll go, you know what? I had a bite and that's all. I don't feel like I need to eat the whole thing or whatever. But
yeah,
I just love how yeah. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say it's, we're actually quite lucky because there's a lot of nice food options that we have these days, right? We're not in the same situation anymore from 100 years ago where you kind of had to eat whatever you could because it's all there was. And we now have bigger problems from eating too much and having too many choices. And I mean, you still want to also be careful with all these options and choices, even when it says healthy or vegan friendly. Read your labels, look what's in there. I can't stress that enough, and I'm sure you will as well. Because just because it says it's healthy doesn't necessarily, or because it says vegan. I always say French fries and beers are vegan too, right? But that's not necessarily a healthy diet.
Exactly.
But anybody who wants to embark on this, you're only doing yourself good, and you will not regret it. It's like that's one of the few things where I can almost give a guarantee. If you try and stick with it more or less, more is better than less, you will have benefits from it, and you'll no going back. You'll ask yourself, oh my gosh, how could I ever eat this, that, and whatever.
Exactly. Oh, Peter, thank you so much for taking this time to chat with us. And I love that you're studying, this new way of health. So I'm sure you and I will continue to have chats and maybe add some things along the way to what we're doing. And because I'm so grateful to have doctors like you that get both sides of the story, and
yeah. Well, exactly. And it's, even the fact that I can now take courses and train with a college, an institution that promotes and teaches it's exactly that stuff is a sign that, yes, things are changing. And, let me finish off with one other quote. It's from one of the founders of modern medicine. It was actually Canadian, and then was one of the co-founders of Johns Hopkins University, William Osler. I think it's quoted a lot still in medicine. And he said, one of the first duties of the physician, and I include you in this as well because you're doing exactly this, is to educate the masses not to take medication. So and he was, instrumental in getting medical students out of the lecture halls to the bedside. So he's really one of the godfathers. And that's exactly what you're doing. And you're playing into our arms as the physicians of the future. So thank you. And I really appreciate being on this and having a say in what has become a passion of mine as well. Thank you.
Yeah, I love it. Thank you so much, Peter.
Wonderful. Thanks, Brooke. Bye. Thank you.
All right. And lastly, to tie it all together is my friend Odette, who is recognized as a trusted health and medical professional specializing in sports podiatry, personal training, and mindset coaching with over 15 years of experience. You may have even seen her on Australian Survivor Season 2. She has worked with elite athletes and celebrities. Her expertise has been sought after to design workshops and fitness education programs for big international brands such as Virgin Active. Odette was named the most innovative trainer by Sir Richard Branson's business magazine Roger for her running program that she designed for Virgin Active gyms. Her expert opinion has been featured in the Daily Telegraph, Sydney Morning Herald, Roger Magazine, Runner's World Magazine, Boss Hunting, and Marie Claire, as well as Style Runner and Whim. Odette understands the way the body responds to trauma and is able to help clients to heal via personal pattern recognition and behavioral reprogramming, helping many find their strength and build a resilient identity. All right, so let's get into our conversation with her about mindset and changing what we need to change in order to make changes. Hi, Odette. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hey, how you going, Brooke?
I'm great. I'm so glad you're here. I really wanted to talk to you today because I know when it comes to mindset, you are the person to talk to. And people that are probably, excuse me, watching this right now, they know they need to make some changes. Those changes seem really hard to them. It's almost like that there's this hill to climb and they just don't even know where to start. Often I will also have clients who know what they need to do, but they're not doing them. And they come to me as an accountability person. You know, they need to check in. So what can you share with us today about mindset when it comes to making changes for people that want to be on a better path to health?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. And this is a question when we're always at a time of transition. We all kind of know what we need to do because there is more than enough information out there about diets, workout plans, changing your life, but it's kind of like, where do we start? And a lot of us see the end of the transformation, but it's really, you know, that those small steps in the beginning. And from my own personal experience, where I started years and years ago, before I knew about mindset coaching and before I was in a personal trainer and a podiatrist, so working in health and medicine and all of that, I pretty much started, I was in, you know, I had a lot of depression. I'd had my son, my marriage was breaking down. And I was like, where do I start? Like, the only thing I could do was, you know, put on my running shoes and run up the road for 10 minutes while my son was asleep, you know, and every day I just did that and it created momentum. It was a very small step, but if we kind of think of the always at the end result, which we do want to have that there, but if we take just a small practical step every day and just celebrate that small win, I think that's where you want to start. And that's where most of my clients, I get them to think like, this isn't a, you know, we have 30-day challenges, but this isn't a 30-day challenge. This is a lifelong set up little habits every single day that compound to, you know, 10 years, 20 years later, where your life is really exactly how you want to live it. So have the map, but just take the small steps, just celebrate. I just went out the door today, and trust me, then that's like, then your diet changes. Then I started to study more, and my life changed very slowly, but you can see over time it was a big change. So just small step, just one thing. That's where to start.
Yeah. And that's what I found when I work with clients, and even in my 6-week online course, that the more you try to change at once, the harder it is, the more people give up. And so it really is the slow steps that are key, and not being, I guess, overwhelmed by looking at the top of the mountain and thinking, oh my God, how am I going to get there? It's just that one step at a time.
Completely.
Yeah. So what kind of mindset do you think, for people wanting to make changes? Is it sticking to a routine? Is it, what are the things that you think would help people the most? Is it writing things down, having goals? Is it having someone that they're accountable to? What is the main shift you think that has to happen in people's brains for them to actually decide, right, I'm going to make myself a priority now. I'm going to put my health first.
Yeah. Like, the thing is, we've got to understand the way we're made as humans too. So a lot of people are hard on themselves because they have all the enthusiasm, they make those changes, and then they go back to square one again. And it's because you've got to understand that your body is just so amazingly built that it loves patterning things. It loves pre-programming things. And when you realize that you're programmed, or you've set yourself up on a program that is familiar to you, it's going to take a while to break. It takes 64 days to set a habit, not 21 days. It's actually 64 days for you to neurologically rewire all the connections. So when we think about like telegraph poles and the way we communicate and we connect, we strengthen those connections to our new habits, and that takes 64 days. So just try with the small stuff over 64 days and add on, as I said, because if you try to overhaul something you've been doing for 10 years, it is going to be so hard on your body to like try and tell it, oh, you know, green means red, you know, like you're just not, you're not set up, you're not wired that way. So respect, in a way, respect how well the human body is made to set up patterns and programs, but understand that you also need to rewire them. If that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And I know too that we're just in this like repetition, like the patterns, you know, even myself, when I go through the grocery store, I tend to buy the same things because I'm just kind of on autopilot. I tend to make similar things. Excuse me. And so sometimes it's hard, you know, getting, you know, for someone who wants to say, try and exercise before they go to work, getting up that little bit earlier, you know, might seem, I hear very often, oh, I set the alarm, but then I didn't do it. But yeah, it's really tricky. I think it's knowing is half the battle, and then doing is the other half the battle. And like you said, so many people know what they need to do.
Yeah, so a really great book to use when you are trying to set new habits up is Atomic Habits. Now, that book is fantastic at giving you the examples you need, not just you need to do this. It gives you, this is how you do your checklist. This is how you know you're automated to say, I feel a little bit of a stress. Then I go, oh, when I feel stressed, I usually pick up my phone and I go to Instagram. And then that usually alleviates my stress for a short amount of period of time, right? But then you're distracted from work. So you know it's a really bad habit, but you're actually just trying to alleviate stress. So you are able to list what are your triggers and why are you going to the fridge or to your phone or to this. And then how do you set up new triggers and rewards to make you go, okay, well, I'm just going to leave my get on my gym clothes in the morning, and I'm just going to leave bottles of water around my house and change my environment. And when I get triggered, I'm going to do that action, and this is going to be my reward. And then you set up the reward response, and then your body's really quite good at programming that in, like Pavlov's dogs. When they hear, I don't know if you know Pavlov's dogs and the experiment. So every time they'd hear the bell, they'd get fed, the dogs. And so eventually they stopped feeding the dogs and they'd ring the bell and the dogs would still salivate, because your body is programmed already to go into a response. So you have to look at a trigger, like a bell, like a smell, anything like that, a trigger you can use that'll make you go, your body act and go into a response, and a response that you want, not one that you don't. So yeah.
It's so true. People, they get stressed and they'll go for the bar of chocolate, or for me, I was in a habit of, when my kids were really young, that 4 o'clock came and I wanted 2 glasses of wine. And that was
I've been there. That's a hard one to get out of.
Yes, that was, you look at your watch going, what time is it? But not now. I just can't imagine having 2 glasses of wine now every day the way that I used to. But yeah, it's that habitual thing that can be so hard to break. For
completely.
People. And
that's being human, you know.
Yeah.
And people beat themselves up about it, like, I don't have willpower, and it's really just being human.
Right. Well, you have a lot of willpower. You're someone who's quite strong mentally and physically. Do you have any tips on how to strengthen someone's willpower? Because sometimes people, like what you're saying, you know, they have good intentions, but then what are your tips for strengthening willpower?
Yeah, I actually don't feel like I have a lot of willpower. Just it may look like that from the outside, but essentially, I think I'm a bit kinder to myself now as well. So I would do a lot of things out of feeling bad, like I should be. And that doesn't always mean that I'm looking after myself if I should be doing something that looks like it's good to society, what I should be, and some people think, oh, well, I should be going to the gym, but that mightn't be the way your body wants to exercise, So so we have willpower, but I also think it is when we feel like I'm powering through this, is it willpower, or is it your body saying maybe you shouldn't do this? So I'm kind of, I don't know. Willpower is a funny thing.
If you're not in alignment with what you should be doing.
Exactly. That's sort of like being a bit kinder to myself. So I love exercise, but sometimes it's like, Odette, today you need to just only walk on the beach and absorb, being in nature and calm your nervous system down, because that's what's going to keep me healthy, not going and doing another workout and raising my cortisol and pretty much making me hold on to more stress and weight. So I think willpower is important when we do want to get rid of maybe those bad habits, that little bit of that used to be a pattern, a habit, but now we've got new ones. But also just be a bit gentle on yourself, because I think it can, I don't know, a lot of it's up here for some people, and they're not kind to themselves when it comes to health.
Yeah, I know. I've heard so many stories about women. They do something they know they shouldn't do, and then they beat themselves up. So maybe they went and they had the whole bar of chocolate, which they knew they shouldn't have done. But then the beating themselves up is almost worse in some ways. Because the stress that puts on themselves. And so you're right. Like so much of, well, there's so many aspects of our health, but you're right, being kind to ourselves is so important.
Yeah. And what you're teaching is the nutrition people need, it's, we've had all the diets and things where people, and there's so many different diets for people, but it's really like, how are you feeding yourself, because you value this vessel that takes you around.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to put that first sometimes, over that like quick fix of a chocolate or a wine or whatever our vice is. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing those little tidbits with us today. I really appreciate your time.
No problem.
Is there anything else that you want to say before we sign off? Or
not really, other than, if you're watching this, I just want to wish you the best of luck, and just gratitude is a huge, I think for mindset, gratitude is something that will really make a huge difference. And so if you kind of look at your body as in it just being the most amazing thing to get you through life, it's just built so beautifully, and then coming into gratitude each day can really set you up for a lot more success in your mindset, in your health habits and all of that. So I'd probably finish with that.
100%. And I think too, even the gratitude for all that we do have, but then also sometimes grateful for finding, this mountain you might have to climb to better health, but just like, aren't you glad now? Or aren't you glad you have the tools now? Even though it can be hard, because with my own health struggles, I know that the gut issues that I had, I would have done anything to fix it, because it got so bad. And although I knew the journey was going to be hard, I was so grateful to have something that I knew that I could turn it around.
Yes. Yeah, completely. Because every struggle that you have, somebody else is going to have a similar one. And if you can teach, and you can just know that one day you will teach that lesson to somebody else. So gain as much insight, wisdom, and have gratitude for that journey, even though it's like, okay, this is painful, but what within the pain can you just like love about it and learn?
Awesome.
Yeah. Awesome.
Thanks.
Thanks for having me.
All right.
I'll see you guys.
All right, that's it. Thank you so much for watching today. I really hope that you've learned something today. Or maybe you've got this new sense of wanting to take your own health in your own hands and make some changes. If you'd like help with anything along the way, please reach out to me. I absolutely have such a burning passion for this, and I really want to help as many people as possible reach their health goals. So you can find me on my website, contact page, send me an email. I'd love to hear from you and see what I can do to help you. I really do think that the world is shifting to a more health-centered, more than disease management system of healthcare. And I just couldn't be more excited to be in this space. I think because I've had my own journey, my own gut healing journey that has completely changed my life, that I kind of just want to shout from the rooftops now, you know. I did initially with my gut problem go to my GP, and the only thing he said was, yeah, it looks like you have a parasite. We can put you on an antibiotic. And I know now that taking an antibiotic to get rid of a parasite is absolutely not the best way to deal with gut issues for a million reasons. And I'm so glad I sought out another way. So anyways, if you'd like help with anything, I'm here for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have a fantastic day.